Kramer, the NFL futures markets keep popping up left and right. There's, DK already has a pretty big slate.
We discussed this yesterday. They had only MVP. In the last 24 hours, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. And what we're going to talk about, Coach of the Year has dropped. In some ways, Coach of the Year has become a more interesting market to me than some of these kind of dart throw Super Bowl futures.
Yeah.
A little bit more attainable, more of a regular season award. And, we can't have this conversation without going right to the top of the board, seeing who the favorite is. Jim Harbaugh, plus 550.
That's crazy.
It does feel a little bit crazy because this team has been, good, maybe underperforming a bit. But what would it take for Jim Harbaugh to secure the award? We've had this conversation many times, Sean. There's a bit of a, have you improved your team's win by, I think it's 5 wins from the previous year. That right there is a pretty interesting feat for them to get to in that division to me. And so, seeing them at plus 550 is worse than seeing the Chargers at plus 2,500 to me to win it all. Hard pass on this one.
Well, the odds are incredibly short at plus 550. But, normally the formula is it's almost always a new head coach or, a guy like Harbaugh who was out of the league for a while coming back to the league. To Kramer's point, usually it's that 5 to 6 wins. You have to get 5 to 6 more wins than you did the previous season. That's like kind of the sweet spot you want to look for. And last year it was a crazy market. I mean, Shane Steichen was my pick last year, and man, if it wasn't for D'Amico Ryans and Kevin Stefanski, Kramer was on D'Amico Ryans, who arguably should have won Coach of the Year.
I feel a little bit robbed on that. I mean, I understand, honestly, the Stefanski-Flacco angle, I understand, but how do we not give that award to D'Amico Ryans? That franchise had not won that many games in 3 years.
Yeah, combined. You took the previous 3 years combined of the Houston Texans, and D'Amico Ryans beat it. Kevin Stefanski, I still, again, can't wrap my head around how, and hats off to Flacco and Kevin Stefanski, winning those games and getting into the playoffs and then getting destroyed by the Texans. I know it's a regular season thing, but how does that not seep into the voters' mind a little bit? Now, maybe they did do the due diligence and vote right before the playoffs, but Kevin Stefanski and Joe Flacco robbing our boy DeMar Hamlin, Ryan, and D'Amico Ryan.
A little bit of a hot take, but why is the Coach of the Year not include the playoffs?
Yeah.
If you
arguably where coaching matters the most. I mean, ask Kyle Shanahan or 49ers fans, because I'm sure they would have, they definitely impact who they're voting for Coach of the Year.
Can we at least make it the tiebreaker? I mean, Stefanski only improved from 7 to 11 wins. Anyway, a lot of questions about last year. All right, let's start heading down the board. Any guys closer to the top that you like?
It's tough. I mean,
Raheem Morris, obviously, this is a voted on award. It does seem like Raheem Morris is very beloved amongst the media, the coaching ranks. But at 10-1, I still don't know who your quarterback is. Sure, you could be like D'Amico Ryans, draft someone, bring in Kirk Cousins. Certainly, there's a lot of room for improvement on that Falcons team. If I was going to take a stab on any of the guys near the top of the board, it would absolutely be, it would either be Raheem Morris, which I think is a bit short for me, or this is the way I would maybe play the Bears and take Eberflus. If they do keep the team together and they are able to take that step forward at 14-1 or 18-1. But again, it does seem like a lot of these top of the board candidates, they don't have a lot of paths to meet that requirement of improving the team by enough. And so I'll trickle down the board a little bit. I know that this is
and also too, good head coaches that we know that we like never win. Like Andy Reid, probably the best coach year in, year out, or at least one of them. He's 75-1.
Well,
they just won't give it to him. It's part of the narrative of like, oh, hey, we've already given X coach their time to shine. We need to come up with a new angle, a new slant.
So Stefanski, for that reason, down at 60-1. So I do think you can include some second-year head coaches here. Yes. I mean, obviously Stefanski wasn't in his first year, but to me, Sean Payton at 30-1 for the same reasons the Broncos stand out as a nice buy at 100-1 in the futures market. We saw the transformation of this team over the course of one season without really even an off season. If you think about it, they cleansed the team of some of the problems. Who knows what's going to happen with the Russ situation? And yes, I like the coach of the year market better, honestly, if they end up with a younger quarterback or even a new quarterback at all. But it does seem like Sean Payton in his second year could take a big enough step forward to garner some attention here. And, who knows? A couple of the dominoes fall the wrong way. If this team makes the playoffs, I think he's going to be a strong candidate. Short of one of the newcomers like Brian Callahan or something like that surprising. To me, Sean Payton, 30-1. Love that price.
Well, yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, the problem is almost with the Broncos and Sean Payton is that he's almost a victim of his own success. Because they finished strong and because they're 8-9, he almost needs to get to 12-5, 13-4.
But it's a narrative thing,
right.
And this
I get it.
So I think the Russ aspect to this, and just the general going from Hackett to this, I think people might give him a little bit of we'll call it a continuation year, where they're gonna see how quickly, if this is a competitive playoff contending team, you have to put his name in the hat because of how bad that team was under Nathaniel Hackett, how bad of a contract and the deal, the Russ deal was. How much equity they gave away in the draft. And so to be able to kind of rebuild on the fly, get the team back to being competitive. And, yeah, he's a Parcells guy. So love me some Sean Payton.
Well, and, yeah, I mean, there's a couple. I think, to me, the sweet spot is Dan Quinn, Brian Callahan. Those are the two.
Dan Quinn, get out of here.
That I have circled. Dan Quinn is tough for me to get behind because I've already seen Dan Quinn coach in the NFL, and I don't think he doesn't really strike me as coach of the year. But the case for Dan Quinn is fairly simple, right? I mean, what would you rather bet this year, Ryan? The Commanders to win the division or Dan Quinn coach of the year? I think if you're looking at those futures market now, Commanders are going to probably be what, like 7-1, 8-1 to win the division? If the Commanders win the division, Dan Quinn is definitely winning coach of the year at 25-1.
Yeah, sure, maybe. I'm not interested. He just hired Bobby Johnson to be his offensive line coach. If you don't know who Bobby Johnson was with the Bills. The Bills essentially let him go to the Giants. He was horrible at the Giants, so bad that one of the Giants players left. Tackle Tyree Phillips left to be on the Eagles for like 5 weeks on the practice squad. Came back much better. Bobby Johnson, not good. I think that's tough. Yeah, Dan Quinn, coordinator, not coach. I'm not buying that price. But to your point, if I was into the Commanders.
Right. Like, let's say well, hear me out, Ryan. They draft a Drake May, a Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. You're kind of high on them as offensive rookie of the year, maybe. And he comes in and he has a DeMeco Ryans type run. I mean, at least the formula is there. I would rather roll the dice on Brian Callahan auto at 25-1 because there's more unknowns. The AFC South, now granted the Texans look pretty good in that division, but I think the Jags are a pretty big question mark. Colts, pretty big question mark. I mean, they're competitive teams. We'll see how things shake out for them. But Brian Callahan, I mean, you're coming and taking over a AFC, a Titans team that did not, bottom of the division, 6-11. So I think if you can get to 10 wins, you are looking pretty good. I don't think you have to win that division if he can get the Titans into the playoffs. I think he's a pretty good candidate for coach of the year at 25-1. So and Titans to make the playoffs again, it's probably going to be 6-1, 7-1. I would rather take Brian Callahan coach of the year at 25-1. I think coach of the year is interesting when we're going to be breaking down some NFL futures because like I mentioned with the Commanders to win the division, if you are high on the Commanders, there's sometimes better ways to play it in the coach of the year market.
I would one more. We're running out of time. I'm finding myself bullish on the Cardinals this year. We saw the effect of Gannon and those players, and they didn't get the wins. So they're still sitting low enough to propel themselves forward. They have Kyler now. There's a lot of reasons why you like this. They have a lot of draft equity. Jonathan Gannon plus 2,000. Another one I'd be buying right now.